And Om Shanti to the family. It's lovely to be with all of you. Um, Honesty is, yes, as Maria mentioned, a topic that is very dear to our hearts. And I think many times when we hear this topic of honesty and honest efforts, what comes to our mind is always Dari Janki, because Daddy used to always remind us, and it was just her legacy left with us, that how an honest heart is a heart that wins God's heart. And I think in many ways, honesty, unpacking it is a very interesting process. But before I go into the subject of honesty, I thought it would be nice to unpack effort first, because sometimes words have a particular energy with them, or we hold a particular perception of words. And so when we think of effort, sometimes it brings the connotation or the feeling that, oh, it's like hard work and it's, laborious and it's heavy. But I sometimes like to use the word attention rather than effort, because I think that is what Baba wants of us. He wants us to hold that constant attention, and attention on ourselves, attention on our inner world, attention on how we respond to the world around us, because it is by holding this constant attention, not out of force, not from tension, but holding this attention with love, that it opens up the pathway for us to have a connection, and a stable connection with Baba, which I think ultimately is our aim. So, this first thing of looking at effort as attention, and how can I hold this attention in a loving way, in a light way, and in a sustainable way, which is key. Because when there's any kind of force or heaviness, it cannot be sustained. And the Hindi word for effort is Purusharat. And Puru means the individual, the self, and Sharat means the chariot. So it's the soul, the individual riding this chariot. And I feel in some ways that is the essence of the journey of our effort, that Baba wants us to hold that constant attention that we need to maintain, of being soul conscious. And the last few Murlis, even this morning's Murli, it's really something that we need to deeply ingrain within ourselves, this effort of being soul conscious. And when we hold this attention on soul consciousness, um, it's not just about thinking about it, but it's about awakening that experience inside of us. And for me, that's what a sustained effort does for us. It awakens the experience for us within. So that is how I unpack what effort means for me. But the second question is, why do I do, or why do I make effort? And some of you who may be listening to Avyakti Parivar, it's a question that Mohini Didi also brought up. But when I was reflecting on it, the first response that came to my mind was something that Daddy had shared many years ago. Why do I make effort? And it's a question to ask ourselves. Is it because Baba told me to do it? Is it because I have to do it? Is it because it's my only protection? But Daddy's response in a class that I remember was, it is a question of my own dignity. And it is something that stayed with me, that I make effort. I keep this attention on myself because it is a question of upholding my dignity more than anything else. My own self respect is deeply connected with the quality of effort I make. And as Baba mentioned, when you stay in your self respect, then drama can't shake you. Then, whatever the scenes and situations and responses and reactions of others are around you cannot shake you. You remain stable, you remain in your self respect. And I think it's in some ways really about being really so secure in myself. Um, because it is from that deep inner security that comes the stability. And when I have that stability, then I can respect myself. Um, and it gives me courage then that no matter what comes my way, I can face it. My experience is that when I am secure inside and feel stable inside, then a challenge is just a challenge. It's not an obstacle, it's not a bondage, it's not a burden, it's not something I fear, but it's something that just comes my way that I will feel confident enough in me to know that I have the tools Baba's given me to work through this. So, therefore, this practice of soul consciousness, this knowing that I'm doing this to uphold my dignity, I'm doing this to emerge and remain stable in my original true self, all of that then helps me to flow with drama, flow with any situation. In this question of why do I make effort, Mohini Didi shared that how clear is my aim and objective? And I think when we talk of honesty in our efforts, it is that if I keep the clarity and the vision of my aim and objective, and yes, Baba says in the Murli, our aim and objective is to be Lakshmi Narayan or whatever deity. But have I unpacked it for myself? What does it mean to be that golden aged soul? And the more that I unpack it for myself, the clearer my aim is for myself, what it means, what am I striving towards, then it inspires that quality of effort, an effort from the heart, because there's that clarity with it. And I was sharing with our class on Sunday that, as Baba said, emerge your original sanskaras. Um, and one element of that is, have I explored for myself in a way, as a deity, how will I use my eyes? as a deity, how will I use my ears? How will I use all my physical senses? But then again, as well, how will I use my subtle organs? How will I use my mind? How will I use my intellect? So, unpack it in a way, we need to really experiment with it and really hold that awareness, but also experiment, challenge ourselves. What will it be like? How will I see? Um, a few years ago, when I was in Madhuban, I was doing a little experiment for myself. And I kept like asking myself that how will I see things when I am a deity, or in the golden age, how will I see things? So I didn't imagine the golden age, but I was saying, how will I see things? Because we had that project called Seeing into Being. So the way I see, that's the reality I'm creating. So I was experimenting with that. And I remember going for a walk by Naki Lake. And Naki Lake is very beautiful, but it's also has quite murky water around. Um, but in a way, if I'm seeing this as a deity, what will I see? How will I see it? What will the colors look like? What will the surface of the lake look like? And it was such a beautiful experimentation. And I feel, you know, just this morning's Murli as well, just created that feeling that we're not waiting for the golden age to be created, but we are creating it by the way we choosing to see things, the way we choosing to use our senses, the way we choosing to use our mind. So keeping that aim and objective clearly within myself, in front of myself, and unpacking for myself what it is that I'm aiming for. What am I working towards? What am I creating? Um, and I think that begins to refine my efforts for me as well. Um, the next aspect that I want to also share is that within all of this, it is only sustainable, whatever effort I make, when there is love. And I remember many years ago, I was chatting with Daddy. There was a particular challenge that I was facing at that time. And Daddy told me one thing. She didn't tell me be soul conscious. She told me have love for soul consciousness. And that brought in another twist for me in a way. Have I really understood not what it means to be soul conscious, but also what it does for me? So in that way, then I began to look at everything, whether it's effort, whether it's Baba Srimad, whether it's the Maryadas, Baba's whole system. Have I unpacked in terms of understanding what it's doing for me? Not that I have to do, but what it's doing for me. And I think that then emerges a love for it. And where there's love for it, effort is natural, and effort is consistent as well. And so those are few reasons that I feel is so important to look into, why am I making effort, and how is it that I'm making effort. When we talk about honesty in effort, um, I think one thing to begin to look at, and that is asking myself a few questions, which I think aligns me with truth and honesty. Because it's what is it that it's going to not only create a deeper fulfillment, but aligning me with the highest vision that Baba has for me. So some aspects that I need to check on myself that qualifies me for honest effort. And these are just some of the things that I have been looking at, whether it's my thoughts, my attitudes, my inner dialogue that I'm having, the words that I'm speaking, the responses that I want to give. Few things that I keep checking for myself. One is it that where I'm coming from, is it factual? You know, is it really what is, or is it just my opinion? And I think many times we will find that a lot of extra thinking that we end up having, it's all just a perception I'm holding or an opinion I'm having. So I find that honesty in efforts, I must be prepared to challenge myself in that way, to check for myself that is this really factual, or is it just an opinion? Is it a subjective view? And I found one thing for myself as well, is that then, even if it is factual, the second thought or the question I ask myself, is it kind? Because if it's not kind, then drop it. Don't hang on to it. Whatever it is will work itself out, but my responsibility and what I'm allowing myself to be absorbed by or be influenced by is that if it's not kind, let go. You know, if it's not kind, it's not necessary. So that's the second question that I feel what aligns me with honesty. Because sometimes our understanding of honesty is confrontational, but that's not honesty. You know, I think honesty needs to have this quality of really coming back to essence. And number two, coming back to kindness. Because if it's not kind, drop it, let go. The third question I ask myself, and that is this helpful? Is it going to bring benefit to myself and to others? Is it going to make things easier? Is it going to support things in a way that brings souls closer to Baba? Is it helpful? And if it's not, then let go. And if it is, then give energy to it. So, honest effort is a question about what am I giving energy to? And these questions, in a way, guides me in terms of what is it that I'm going to give energy to? So is it factual? Is it kind? Is it helpful? And the fourth question I ask myself is that, can I be transparent with it? You know, it's like, can I just feel free to share this with Baba, to share this with our seniors or whoever? Can I really be transparent about it? Because if I can be transparent about it, then it shows that there's nothing of my own desires or my own fears or whatever that's sitting with it. I can be free, you know? So that's one of the things that I find that helps me to align myself with what honesty means. And these questions guides me. It guides me to see that am I coming from the right place or not? Because we all know that, ego is very tricky. And sometimes we think we coming from the right place, but we don't always recognize that sometimes it's our own subtle ego that's coming in the way. And so for me, these questions are what helps me to check, am I coming from the right place? Am I using my energy in the right way? Because very much linked with honest effort is to be free from waste. And we know not to waste time and words and energy, but to check ourselves that, that we're free from it in that way. Um, the other aspect that I feel is that the time we are now in, it's like the level of our effort has to become more and more subtle. And I think these questions helps me in a way to see that my energy, my vibration is subtle. But also that it's like we have to keep our energy internally high. Because only if we keep our energy internally high, then can we come from that subtle place. So always to check for the self and to see that I'm not dropping into the corporeal and the ordinary, because then it's easy to get into waste. But that I keep my awareness high, I keep my, feelings pure, and my awareness subtle, because it's subtle efforts that's needed now. The other aspect around honest efforts, and I want to use an analogy here, and that is that when there's honesty, there's continuous refinement. And the analogy I want to use here is a musician that plays an instrument. Let's say I play a flute, for example. And a good musician, once he has learned the art of playing that instrument, doesn't assume he knows it. There's a continuous practice and attention to keep refining that art. And for me, that's it. It's like we have heard the word be so conscious so often from the Murlis that we've studied, from the classes that we hear. And I think very often we feel, because I've heard it, I've understood it, I am it. But there's a gap still. And even I am it, it's probably that I am it for moments of time, but I'm not it continuously and consistently and naturally. It's like, do I still have to bring that attention consciously to be it, or am I it naturally? So, in order to like move from this awareness to knowing, to acceptance, to imbibing, and then to serve with it, which are the steps Baba gives us in a way, um, I have to keep refining it inside of me. I have to keep, and when I'm talking about refining it, the first thing that I feel it's really about challenging my assumptions. You know, I remember uh, many years ago, Daddy was very ill. She was in Madhuban, and Manna Ben had come to see her in Madhuban, and later we had the opportunity to have a conversation with Manna Ben, and she was saying how Daddy was sharing that she was in so much of pain at that time, but it made her really look into herself and to ask herself, do I really know God as God is? And I was just very moved by that when Mandaben shared that, because Daddy was around 90 years of age at that time. She had been practicing for so many years, but there was such humility that she never assumed, like, I've mastered it, I know it. She still sort of went back to the basics and kept asking herself and kept refining her efforts, and in particular, her relationship with God. So I feel that that's an important element for us. I feel that's what the honesty is all about. And that is that I need to keep going deeper and keep checking myself to see what else? What else do I need to iron out? Or what else do I need to release and let go? Or what else do I need to deepen as an experience? And keeping this mirror in front of me, that how natural is my way of being, that reflects the aim I'm working towards. So that's one of the things that I find, that it's that kind of refinement that we need to keep checking ourselves on. And so, in terms of that refinement, one is always the purity of my mind. I think ultimately it is that. What is the quality of my thinking? And our thoughts are connected with our feelings as well. So, the purity of our feelings, are they always, you know, coming from a place of kindness, coming from a place of love, coming from a place of peace? The second thing that I find that is an important refinement as well, and that's to watch myself and to see, is my every response in the drama reflecting a virtue? Is it a virtuous response? What virtue am I using here? Sometimes it's just being detached and being an observer. Sometimes it's being understanding and caring. Sometimes it's just being sweet and just, giving a smile. But is my response to every scene in the drama a virtuous one? And that's something that I need to keep looking and checking with myself as well. And then I think the third thing that I find important, that helps me to reflect on the honesty of my effort, is ultimately my relationship with Baba. What is my connection with Baba? What is the depth of my relationship with Baba? And it's really to ask myself that to what extent is Baba at the center of everything that I do? You know, um, I think it was Chandrika Ben from Ahmedabad who came to us last year, and she shared something very sweet. She said, whenever she had to go for a program or anything, she would always go to Baba's room and say, right, Baba, come, let's go. And when she'd come back, she would go back to Baba's room and say, Baba, we're back, and it was all good. So that's her particular practice. And she said one day they left the center and they were maybe about 10 minutes away. And she realized, I didn't go to Baba's room. She said, let's turn back. I forgot something. And she said, I forgot to go to Baba's room. So she went back and made sure she took a few moments in Baba's room, and then she left. And I think it's more than just the action, but it's really about holding this beautiful feeling within me that Baba is the heart, at the heart of everything that I am doing. And it's like I'm taking the energy of my connection with Baba to whatever I'm doing. Um, and it's, it's almost like remembering one thing, that we are just instruments. Baba's getting his work done as he needs to get done. We just, the instruments that need to play this little game at the end of the day. Um, but Baba will get done what he needs to get done. So I think honesty in effort ultimately comes back to this, that to what extent is Baba at the center of everything that I do? To what extent do I draw on my relationship with Baba in everything that I do? And I think what emerges from that is then there is no feeling of labor or stress in anything then. Because, genuinely, I feel Baba's support in every step. And if there's any feeling of labor or heaviness or whatever, for me, it's a reminder. Okay, I need to bring Baba between me, the other, or the situation, you know? Because the state of internal lightness means that Baba is present there. And things flow beautifully and naturally and easily. So that is a key thing that I find that is important. And I think, just as a reminder that our efforts are not so that we manipulate the drama or maneuver ourselves cleverly in the drama, but it is the purification. It's all about purification. Um, Purification that can only happen through our deep connection with Baba. And Baba offered a very beautiful um, method for us on Sundays, Murli. And that was that he said, whatever challenges that come up or whatever, he said, use the power of silence. It's almost like become introvert become quiet, return to that original self, the self that God has introduced us to ourselves in a way. And it's from that then apply the solution. So it's like I'm not trying to fix the drama. I'm not trying to change the drama or fix anyone or anything. But it's really just about turning inwards and drawing on that relationship. And what that relationship does for me is that that relationship with Baba helps me to see myself the way Baba sees me. And that's what being a Shiv Shakti is all about. It's like Baba introduces the soul to itself. And when I can see that self, then I can apply that self in every situation, etc. Then I apply that energy to the situation rather than trying to fix things or trying to change things or move things. And this approach as well, I find it's something that I remember asking Daddy once, Daddy, how do we clear the chit, which is this memory track we have inside? Because, you know, in some ways, that is the effort that we need to make. Because a lot of our responses to things are based on the memories we hold inside. And so, to what extent have I cleaned that and cleared that? And her response to me was very simple. She says, we have gyan, we just have to apply the gyan. And so I think for me, it's just this attention that where I am, whatever the situation is, to become introvert in that moment, to become quiet in that moment, and just to ask myself, am I putting Baba here in the middle of it all? Am I applying what Baba has taught me? And am I coming from that place of internal cleanliness? So the 4 questions I spoke about, that helps me to see that am I coming from that place of cleanliness? And for me, that is what honesty is all about. And then I begin to find that the soul feels light. And, Baba always say that where there is truth, the soul dances. And that's what it is. I feel light no matter what. I feel light. And that lightness makes things feel easy, not only for myself, but for everyone around as well, in a way. And then, it's Baba's work, so there will always be success. There was a situation we had last year, and Shivani Ben was coming, but her visa got rejected twice, and so there was a bit of concern now what to do to get this visa through. And I was speaking to Vedanti Ben, and she told me, it will all come, right? How else are we going to show that we have God on our side and that miracles do happen? And I really loved her response because, in a way, whatever comes our way, just to know that if we bring Baba to the center of that, then you know what? It becomes an opportunity to show how miracles happen. I was at a memorial service yesterday of a context soul who was a call of time participant. And one of her colleagues shared that they had a a guy that joined their company, and he didn't believe in God. But when he saw the miracles that happened in this company, he started believing in God. There's something must be happening here, that reflects that there's a higher power at work. And so I think in some ways, um, that is how we're going to reveal Baba, making the impossible possible in such a way through our lightness. But that lightness can only be there when there is that honesty within ourselves, when we are coming from that place of really making Baba the center of everything, and also keeping the clarity of why we're doing what we're doing. So those were some of my thoughts for this evening, and I'd like to, leave a little bit of space for questions if anyone has any, and just take it further from there. Thank you.
We thank you so much. You went so deeply into the subject, and I think all of us will have to check ourselves and see how far we have reached and how honest we are, how kind we are, how truthful we are, because um, sometimes we lose our way and forget what Baba says, and whatever you share is really very deep. And I don't see any questions here, but um, what you said about kindness, this struck me because sometimes I can see people who consider themselves, Brahmins, that consider themselves honest, and they tell you things that are not coming from this place that Baba is there and knowledge is there, and what comes out from their mouth is not kind at all. And they say, they may hurt somebody, but then they say, I'm honest. This is my way of thinking, my character, or my sanskar, or whatever. And the other person feels very bad. So I have not a question about that, but it's just an observation. So ego is really very strong, and ego may make us blind to Baba's
Mm,
knowledge and take knowledge from another side, which is not Baba's side, it's a Ravan side.
mhm,
So how can we, sometimes we cannot control that because it's in our chit, in our memory, and it's for so many births we express ourselves like that. Um, so, can you tell us how what we can do? Everything you said is so wonderful, and this is what we should do. But is there something else? How to control the ego?
mm. Um, I think um, I think one thing that I told myself was that I don't have a right to give another soul a realization. It's not my job. That soul will have their realization when they are ready for a realization and to change whatever they need to change in their way of being or their character or whatever. My responsibility is my response. And I think a key thing that I had to learn is that it connects very deeply to the feelings that I hold inside of me. Because ego or arrogance will always justify. And if I find that in my mind, I'm justifying why I'm saying things, or I am justifying that this one's like this, and whatever judgments I'm holding, and maybe I'm right as well, that this person is behaving in a bad way or whatever the case may be. But it's not my job. It's really not my job to give that soul a realization to whatever. Um, my job is to have good wishes, pure feelings, and to watch my dharna. Now, in a case where the soul is open and comes to you to say, um, I'm being challenged with this, or I found uh, I got affected yesterday and I behaved in a particular way. If a soul comes to you with that and is open for conversation, then that's a different thing. Then you know that there's uh, an openness with which there's respect, and you can share from that place of respect. But even when you share from that place of respect, it's really not to come across as this is wrong in you or that is wrong in you, or I thought that wasn't right or that the other wasn't right. But I find always to come from the place to say, this is the way I reacted internally, or this is the way I felt. Uh, what you were saying, where you were coming from. So it's like I'm still taking responsibility for myself. And I think that's the key thing. I have to take responsibility, and I can only take responsibility for myself and for my responses. And that's what I feel is when I'm being honest with myself. Sometimes I've had the experience as well where someone says, but that's just the way I am. Okay. Uh, I lose my temper, or I think in a way that's critical of other people, or whatever. That's just the way I function. And I don't feel that that's being honest, because what they're trying to say is, this is the way I am. You have to put up with me. And for me, that's not honesty. For me, honesty is, even if I know I have a tendency of being critical, I have a tendency of being intolerant, or I have a tendency of losing my temper, or whatever the case may be, I have to take responsibility for that. I can't tell others that that's the way I am. You just have to put up with it. That's not honesty. So for me, honesty is that accountability. And when I know that there are certain deep sanskaras that come into my chest, the deep memories that are there, it's about taking help from Baba. You know, have that conversation with Baba, and to say, Baba, this is one that I am struggling with. That honesty with Baba, to say, Baba, I need help with this. And so it's not that I just tell Baba about it, but I make effort simultaneously as well. So I pay attention, I check my chart. And that's the other thing about honest effort, is to keep a daily chart, because how else are you going to see where you are at, what is influencing you, etc. So as I keep that daily chart and check myself, and apply myself in a particular with a particular attention on myself in that way, and Baba's help, then I feel we can overcome. But I can't just say, Baba, help me, and let go. I need to also, take accountability, and sit in silence, or study Murlis, or do something that can support my attention that I need. Mm.
Wonderful. Yes. Still, I don't see any other questions. But yes, whatever you shared are very deep and wise. There are some souls who don't know exactly, especially the new ones, what the chart is. So,
Mm.
can you say a few things about the chart?
Yeah, chart is like a daily time that I take, especially before I go to bed, um, to almost look at my day, look at where my consciousness was during the day, what was the quality of my yoga during the day. And I sort of, in some way, take an assessment of myself. You know, I take sort of a record of my day to see where I'm coming from. Now, many people do charts in different ways. Some people just do it mentally, sit in front of Baba and give their chart to Baba like that. Um, for me, I like writing, and I from the beginning of my Brahmin life, I found that for me, the chart that I was able to sustain best is a chart where I write a letter to Baba. So it's like my letter to Baba is like uh, giving my feelings to Baba, giving what stood out for me in my day, what I learned from my day, and what further I need to also pay attention to. So I give that kind of a record to Baba. And I find sometimes what I also do is uh, create certain elements that I want to pay specifically attention on. When I observe myself, I realize that maybe it's a practice of soul consciousness. Maybe when I'm eating, I find I'm not too good with that. So then in my chart, I will say, okay, Baba, I want to pay special attention to this. And then the next day, I will check to what extent have I. And then I keep like, seeing have I improved on it. And I think that's the aim of the chart, is to see what are the areas that I feel I need to improve on, and am I improving on it. So every night I do that conversation with Baba. Earlier on in my Brahmin life, Sister Jayanti once shared with me, and she said, keep a chart of your feelings with Baba. And so that's where my practice really is, that it's like I clear my feelings with Baba every day at night before I go to bed. And when one does that, then it really helps one then to really have a deep feeling of closeness to Baba the next morning at Amrit Vela. Because if anything is sitting heavily inside, then I can't have that close connection with Baba. So that's another element of it. And also I like keep looking at um the the depth of my yoga. I like keep checking, what is different in my experience of yoga. So not that did I have yoga, but what has been different in my yoga? What has been something new that I have felt in my yoga as well? So that's another element of the chart that I like keeping, because it also means it's about stretching and moving within myself. Mhm.
Yes, very nice. Thank you so much. Um, we have 3 more minutes. If anyone has any question, you have the chance to ask the sister, which is an expert in all these things, and you can see it from her face and her effort. I know your efforts, and I really enjoy what you share. Uh, there is a question. Any tips for increasing experiences in yoga?
Mm, yes. Um, I think for me, the first thing has been that I've been working with recently is really um, to stabilize in that deep feeling of soul consciousness. Um, Sister Jayanti shared a class recently in Madhuban, and she was quoting Dadi Ratan Mohini's class. And Dadi had said, if you're thinking I am a soul, you're still being body conscious. And I thought, wow, that's such a deep thing. But it is really to start off and, really asking the self, am I really, like, do I really feel myself as this energy? And feeling that detachment from the body. How often am I doing that? And when I'm sitting for yoga, I take enough time to really create that feeling. And then just, you know, um, um, bringing that awareness of Baba. And again, it's not so much about thinking about Baba, but it's almost like silencing the mind more and more by just holding that awareness of Baba and allowing myself to feel Baba's vibrations, feel Baba's presence, feel Baba's light. So for me, it's really, I feel like the effort right now for me is thinking less and really just allowing the self to be more in that stage and feeling Baba's presence more in that stage. So that's the experiments in yoga right now.